So here's how I think of conspiracy theories, right?
Mm-hmm.
A conspiracy theory tends to be built, in my experience, out of a few elements, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have true things, then you have other things that are either misunderstood or misrepresented, and then you have some person that comes along, or a number of people that come along, and they weave together the true things with the things that they've misrepresented and misunderstood, and use those things to arrive at conclusions which are typically nonsense, or in some part nonsense. And I think it's true to say some, maybe not most, although possibly most, but at least some conspiracy theories have a grain of truth in them. For example, the idea of the Illuminati and secret societies and Freemasons and the Bilderberg Group and all of these things. You can see some of the truth of that represented in the family and the prayer breakfast, and the idea a while back, or the thing that happened a while back, I believe, of Freemasons actually helping each other out, which was quite a big news story when it happened. And then, of course, they've now come out the back of that, the Freemasons, and said, oh no, we've got rid of those people. That's not, whether or not that's actually happened, and whether or not they're still doing that, I don't know. But so there's like elements of truth. And I think that whenever you, for example, with the Freemasons, whenever you've got like a closed doors sort of secret society thing, you don't know what they're doing inside there. People on the outside who are prone to suspicion.
Inspires the imagination,
exactly,
really.
Yeah. And then you've got, like, for example, with the prayer breakfast and the family and stuff, which I think we've mentioned before, but it's a very interesting docuseries on Netflix called The Family, based on some books which were written, not fiction, although it made it sound like they were fiction. Interesting stuff. I don't know how much of it's true. I don't know if any of it's true, but if it's true, then it would definitely be the grain of truth, I would say, in the Illuminati ideas, the Illuminati conspiracy idea, of there being some global elite of a few rich people which are controlling certain things. And again, even that, there's some truth in that, right? There are people who are significantly wealthier than the average person, who have significantly more influence over global events. So there's truth in some of them. But then people like David Icke come along, and they take the true things, and then they find other things.
They fluff it.
Yeah. And it's basically a sensationalist piece, I would say. They take it and they take other things which are unrelated or loosely related, or just some random thing that they then misrepresent and make it seem like it's related.
Yeah.
And build this narrative out of that. And then you end up with things like reptilian shapeshifters. You end up with things like rituals where they're killing babies or whatever, and you know, these kinds of like these wild things. And you just think, from my point of view and the point of view of a skeptic, you need more evidence than the small grain of truth that's in that entire theory. But so much of how a conspiracy theory seems to be built up is that they will go on grain of truth plus assumption that this other thing is true, based on what seems like evidence to someone who hasn't had much practice, I would say, at discerning misinformation from legitimate information and lies from
They just
truth.
can swallow everything together without questioning.
And I think a really important part to add to this as well, and this is something that I heard in Escaping the Rabbit Hole as well, is that there's a lot of these people don't have much either access to, and I wouldn't say access to nowadays because of the internet, but exposure to perhaps other information from alternative sources that is as digestible as things which are created by the lay person, and enticing and exciting and interesting, and fill you with this feeling of knowing something other people don't know. Like,